Hi, I'm Annabelle.
And I'm Amy, and welcome to Escape Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through in the hopes that we can finally escape this show.
Join us each week and leave comments on upcoming episodes, and together we can escape Supernatural Purgatory. Alright, we are in the endgame of this season.
Mm-hmm.
Can you believe it? I don't know where that accent came from. I'm sorry, Dad.
I can't actually believe it. It was so weird to watch this because it's been years since I watched this episode, yet I have such a clear memory of it.
Yes, me too. Like, there was nothing in this episode that surprised me.
No.
And I was just like, what is it about this? Is it all of the reveals that happen? Like, there are literally, well, yeah, there's like 4 reveals in this episode. And they're pretty big too. Mm-hmm. So, well, with that being said, obviously, you know by the title, but we are on season 2, episode 21, All Hell Breaks Loose, part 1. You know, this is ramping up for the finale. I feel like, are there many other seasons where like, obviously there's lots of two-parters to the sort of season episodes, but I don't feel like they've given them the same name in this way.
No, I don't think so. I think this is unique in the fact that it's part 1, part 2, but I think they must have always known this was going to be a 2-parter to wrap this up finally, because this wraps up a lot of storyline. Season 2 kind of wraps up season 1 and season 2 together, I feel. I know, obviously, some of that's carried over into season 3, but I feel like it does wrap up kind of some major plot points.
Sort of like the questions that a lot of people had about certain things. This episode in particular answers a fair few.
So, interestingly, this episode also has commentary on it by Eric Kripke, Sarah Gamble, and Bob Singer. And they said some of the wording that they used in some of the exposition had to be quite carefully done to make sure that it made sense with everything that had come previously, and also not to give everything away.
Yeah, the conversation that happens in this episode I was wondering why it felt so frustrating.
Yeah.
And that you saying that actually makes it very, very clear that's why they did it this way.
Exactly. I would say this commentary is not as good. It's mostly them just kind of talking about the process of writing and making the episode, you know, locations and what the weather was like and all that kind of stuff and how they did certain shots. And I guess it's interesting if you like that kind of stuff, but I don't think there was anything particularly enlightening story-wise, perhaps. Mm-hmm. There's a few little tidbits, you know. But, I mean, this episode was written by Sarah Gamble and directed by Bob Singer, which is obviously why they were doing the commentary. And then, obviously, Kripke's head writer, so I guess he gets final say on stuff.
So, with that being said, I guess we can jump on in. Mm-hmm. We have a recap. It's basically all of the interactions with the special children. They didn't really have a name, but, yeah.
They refer to them, I think... Kripke refers to them as the Psychic Breakfast Club, and I quite enjoyed that because it kind of is true.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. So they pull up to, so it's just Sam and Dean in the car, and they pull up to some sort of diner. Mm-hmm. Dean asks for a sandwich or a cheeseburger with extra onions.
Yeah.
I cannot with the onions.
Carrying on this theme. Why did the pie? I mean, from this dialogue, I guess this is where the pie thing comes from, right? That he loves some pie. But the last 3 episodes we've watched, maybe it just should have been fried onions.
I know, right?
I'm the one who's gonna have to ride in the car with your extra onions.
Hey, see if they got any pie. Bring me some pie. Love me some pie.
I guess people will have more of an opinion on whether you like onions or not. But I feel like most people like a form of pie.
Yeah.
Whether it's pizza pie or like a fruit pie or whatever. Like, so I feel like people can get behind that. And also, let's be real, onion is a mouthful compared to just saying the pie thing.
Yeah,
like,
that's
the
true.
onion thing. So Sam goes in, and I guess he starts to place his order, and we're with Dean in his car, and he's just like humming along to the song. I didn't look up what the song was, but he's just humming along, and his radio starts to flicker. Now, it took him too long, right? Because he taps on it, and I'm like, okay, does the radio do this often?
Mm-mm.
No. So you know it's something bad. So why did you tap on it?
Like, in their line of work, if you don't hear any electronics flicker and like immediately get out your gun, like, would you not? Like, light bulb flickers, like, where's the ghost? Where's the ghost? Like,
Exactly. Let me get my salt. Let me get, like, my iron. Like, right away. It kind of blows my mind that they don't have, like, certain things on hand, like, straight away. Like, I understand that you couldn't have, I mean, I think they have their handguns with them most of the time, but they're probably just with regular bullets. So, like, wouldn't you have, like, obviously you can't have a whole arsenal in your back seat, you know, if you get pulled over, that's not. But if you have, like, an iron rod in there, they're not going to question that.
no.
Or they might, but it's, like, you can say it's for self-defense, and, you know, that's fine.
Or like, just carry salt in your inside pocket. Like, I know it's a bit weird,
Right.
but you're always wearing that jacket, Dean. Just put some salt in that inner pocket, just in your lining.
But yeah, just, I was like, why? I mean, it does click that something is wrong, because he then looks up at the diner and notices there's nobody there. So that's when he, like, hops to it.
Yeah.
And scrambles out the car and goes into the diner and sees that one of the patrons is dead. And he starts to look around. He's calling for Sam. He goes behind the counter, and the two, like, servers are dead too. And as he pushes the door open at the back, he pulls his hand away and he sees the sulfur.
Yeah.
Now, you said this before, that he would have been able to smell that before he put his hand to it, right?
Yeah. I'm feeling like it's a bit more believable in this case because they're in like a little cafe with a kitchen. So like maybe over the food smells, you wouldn't smell it because it smells like eggs. But also, like, it's just like a little neat, tidy pile of sulfur that they left. Like, the demon goes out and it's like, oh, forgot to leave my sulfur. Like, oink, just put it there, just sprinkle it.
And it kind of makes me wonder, for a little bit later on in the episode, why there isn't, like, a sulfur trail there. Like, what causes the sulfur to gather? Because obviously it's like, that's where they escape, right?
Yeah. It's just like demon dandruff.
Gross. Or I guess it's the black smoke that, you know, leaves the trail behind. But okay, again, well, no, actually, no, I know what happens. I was like, how did Sam get from point A to point B? But we know that Sam can be possessed.
Yeah, but I honestly don't think he was in this case, actually. I don't think Sam was possessed because they have got those anti-possession charms from Bobby. I think this was just transportation, right? That's my personal opinion on this. Because of Jake in the episode, how could he have got there? It must have been some kind of transportation. Teleportation is the word I'm looking for. I think the sulfur is like, obviously it's supposed to be from hell, I guess, the sulfur, right? But it's some kind of residual leftover power or something. I don't know. I think you're right. I think it's leftover traces of the smoke. They don't keep this, though. Like, Crowley is not just shedding sulfur, throwing it at people when he leaves places. Though it would be hilarious if he did. Just, like, blowing it in people's faces before he goes away, like, boom, I'm out.
Like, you know, the magician where they, like, throw the smoke powder on the floor.
They should have kept that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, Dean is doing his usual, Sam, Sammy!
Sammy! Sam! Sammy!
That will always, forever, and forever haunt my soul. And it cuts to Sam, and he's passed out in the middle of, like, this deserted, like, town.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much like Croatoan, like his phone's not working. Though I do wonder if it's his phone not working, or because we find out where they are, and they're in like a really remote area. So I wonder if it's just literally this just outside of cell service or phone service.
Yeah, it could be that. I think you're right. So with this set, they were saying in the commentary that originally they had written this so it was set in an orphanage, like a big building, but then this set was apparently built for a western. It's basically like outside Vancouver, and they're just like, oh yes, it's perfect. Let's use this. I mean, it is really good. It looks really nice.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And then we get the title card.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote here that I love this set because it looks like a set.
It does, yeah.
Because there's no paved roads. There's no nothing. And I was like, what town doesn't have paved roads? Like, what is going on? And yeah, so Sam's looking around trying to find anybody, and he hears a noise and picks up like a plank of wood and is about to like attack from around the corner. And lo and behold, it's Andy, like the best character ever.
Mm-hmm.
Andy? Sam, what are you doing here?
I don't know.
What am I doing here?
I don't know. Just
Where are we?
Andy, look, calm down.
Calm down. I just woke up in freaking Frontierland.
And then they hear a scream. It's like an outhouse, maybe? I don't know, a storage place?
Yeah, like a shed.
No idea what's... Yeah. And it's locked on the outside, so Sam picks up a rock and breaks the lock, essentially. Ava's scared and confused, as we all would be. Okay.
I know what you're going to say, because I was thinking it too.
Okay. All right. Do you want to still talk about it now, or talk about it later?
We can talk about it, but I think we can do it without, I guess, giving it away. People should have seen this episode, but like...
Yes.
How did she get in there?
How did she get in there? It's not that hard of a question to figure out how she got in there, but when you see the reveal and then you think about it again, you're like, what? But like, how would she know to start screaming?
I guess you probably heard Sam and Andy talking, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, it's one of those great unanswered questions, I guess, of Supernatural. Because Ava went missing back in Hunted, right? Which is a while ago. Yes. And apparently that was 5 months ago. She's saying that she saw them 2 days before, and she'd only been there for half an hour or something. And
she sort of asks about her fiancé, but Sam doesn't answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hear some more people approach.
Yeah.
And so I know this actor, Aldous Hodge, from Leverage. And in that, he's called Alec Hardison. So that's all I can see when I see him, which is really unfortunate because he's a really good actor. I really like him in all the stuff he's been in.
Mm-hmm.
Even his like one-off episodes and other things. He was really good in Hidden Figures too. And so his name is actually Jake Talley, and he's with a blonde woman who's called Lily. For some reason, when Sam starts to... He gives a long speech, we can get into it in just a second.
Yeah.
But when he says, oh, look, we're all 23, for some reason, I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how, it's something about, none of them look 23, even though they probably were close to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, they dress better than I do, and I'm 31.
But you're right. I think part of it maybe was because Jake was in a military uniform as well, and I just don't think of people being that young in the military, although obviously they are. They all do. You're right. They all do. They all look in their mid-20s. It's not that far off, to be fair. Mid to late 20s.
The only person that probably acts more like his age is Andy.
Yeah, I agree with you there, actually. I mean, Sam's hardened because of his life on the road. Yeah, I guess they all have life experience, which, to be fair, is probably partly to do with their powers too, right?
I mean, you would have to... you have to go real fast.
Exactly.
You suddenly could, control people. I do find it strange how Sam sort of jumps right into the explanation as to like why he thinks they're all there. Like, he just goes straight into it. Like, we all have psychic powers. This is why we're here. And it's just like, whoa, don't ease into it or anything.
Like, he immediately takes like a leadership role. Like, he comes into a situation and it's like, right, I'm taking control over this. I think it's because Sam knows he knows more than they do because he's a hunter. So he's kind of the only one there who is prepared for things they could face. Like, if he wasn't there, they would have to figure out a lot of stuff themselves. And,
I mean, so I guess Ava and Andy sort of back up his story because they've seen their powers before in previous episodes. Andy, we learn, has managed to amp up his powers.
Yes.
I love this story.
It's not just thoughts I can beam out, but images too. Like anything I want. It's like, bam, people, they see it. There's one guy I know, total dick. I use it on him. Gay porn. All hours of the day. It's just like, you should have seen the look on his face.
Okay, but you had, like, if you think it's such a taunt, you also had to watch it to project it.
That's true, actually. I didn't think of this because he does this projection thing later on and he really has to focus on the thing he's projecting.
The way that he's using it as like a bad thing, it's just like, is it though? Is it though? Is it though? Love the group's like, what the fuck face.
I mean, here we find out other people's powers as well. So obviously, Sam's got visions, Ava's got visions, Andy does his thought thingy, and Lily can kill people with a touch, which is like a sudden ramp up of power there. Like, okay. We don't find Jake's...
like, oh, it's like Rogue.
Yeah, she is like Rogue. Maybe that's why they dressed her so like goth. I thought about this. Yeah. Are they directly mirroring Rogue from X-Men? Possibly. She has that kind of troubled look about her.
So that's more in the like 2000s version of X-Men, like X-Men Evolutions, I think. Because in the 1990s version, which is the best version, I'm just going to say it. I don't fight me on it. She's like a little bit more accepting of her power and like, I don't know, less of an angsty teenager, whereas in the later on, I know the later on cartoon series, that's her whole stick, is that she is an angsty teenager, and in the movie she's even worse. They might have been...
Yeah, so we don't find out Jake's power here. He does say that he came all the way from Afghanistan, whereas Lily came from San Diego, so that's why I thought the demons had teleported them if he had managed to come that far. Sam's trying to keep everybody calm, but he does explain that there is a demon, and they're all like, what? What? Like, they're, yeah, again, it's, I get why he has to tell them, but he could have maybe eased into it a little bit more because they are just going to think he's a little bit off his rocker, straight out the box.
In what universe does saying that it's a demon become a reasonable explanation? You could have even given a description because he could have literally said a yellow-eyed demon, and it would have been a little bit better than, like, just saying demon, because I feel like most people are going to think the devil is in, like, you know, red skin horns rather than a man, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I guess, again, they've all been through something supernatural, like they've all appeared in a random place, so it's the time when you would be most accepting of that kind of explanation, almost, as well. And also, as far as Sam knows, this is a life and death situation. I mean, I think he automatically assumes that, so it makes sense they go in, like, armed.
No time to sugarcoat it.
Exactly.
You must know the truth.
So we cut to Bobby and Dean at the roadside, and it's clear that Dean has called Bobby. Like, Bobby's pulled up in, like, his blue truck, and they're on the hood of the Impala looking at a map, and Bobby's pointing out that there has been no demonic activity in the recent area that could point to where Sam is, or that was even any kind of prediction that this would happen. And Dean's obviously looking very, very worried. I love that he called Bobby. Like, I love that Bobby obviously turned up so quickly, just, like, ready to go. And I just love everything about their relationship. I do, throughout all of Supernatural.
Out of all of the relationships that come and go and, like, stay, there is something really wholesome about, like, Bobby's relationship with Sam and Dean.
Yeah.
He's obviously the father figure, but, like, as insulting and as like, harsh as he can be, you know that, like, he loves them.
Yeah, yeah.
do anything for them. I'm pretty sure he even says that, like, at some point. Even, like, alternate reality, Bobby has the same feelings, which I think is, like, I'm glad that they carried that across.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Crick even says here in this commentary that he really wanted Bobby to be their surrogate father, which is how everybody saw him as well. And I think they wrote his character well for that. But I think Jim Beaver generally just brings that across with his acting too. Because some of these lines could just come across as like harsh, right? Like, no, there's nothing here. But it's not. He's like caring and obviously concerned. And I love Jim Beaver. So Ash rings Dean. He gets a phone call from him. And we see Ash in the roadhouse as well, talking to him. Clearly Dean's rang him to try and get information, and Ash is ringing him back, but he's got nothing, or nothing that he's willing to speak about on the phone. He's worried that the line isn't secure, and kind of looking around the roadhouse, kind of concerned, like he eyes up a guy in a cowboy hat who walks behind him, and he's being very, very cagey and asks him to get to the roadhouse. And I noticed that Bobby and Dean both getting the Impala, so Bobby just abandoned his truck there, wherever they are, because obviously the Impala is going to be faster.
I do find it interesting. I don't know why this action, like, caught my eye, but Ash checks his watch.
They had to put it in there.
Yeah. It definitely works because of what happens next. I think it's funny that they just, like, abandon Bobby's car outside of it, because it's literally just like, well, it looks like it's at the side of the road. I'm sure it's like an off-road somewhere.
Yeah.
Because surely they wouldn't, like, because, you know, they've always gone to, like, under a bridge or, like, some sort of service road or something like that. So maybe it's somewhere where they know they could leave a car and, like, it won't get towed.
I don't know. It literally did look like it's just on the side of the road, because there were cars passing them, I'm sure. And, like, I think it adds to the sense of urgency of, like, we need to find Sam really quickly, that they just met up as soon as they possibly could. Like, you know, Dean's like, I'm driving down this highway, and Bobby's like, yeah, okay, I see the car, let's pull over kind of thing. We cut to Jake, and he's kind of reiterating what Sam's been telling them over this break. So, we're supposed to be soldiers in a demon apocalypse or something to that line. And Ava is like saying that she doesn't believe Sam, you know, despite everything they went through together. I guess, like, they were just being hunted by somebody. Well, they didn't really have any demonic stuff going on with them, really.
Yeah. I mean, she did see him die. Which is, you know, very traumatic. But yeah, no.
So Jake is quite hostile, and he's kind of saying, like, I'm better off on my own, you guys are better off on your own, and he kind of walks off. As he walks off, he sees, like, a figure in a window, and it's, like, a girl ghost. Like, it's obvious that it's a ghost. I thought it was obvious it was a ghost. And it's
they have the, like, ghosty sounds, like the
beautiful ghostly sounds there.
You're welcome. I can be a Foley artist yet.
He kind of walks into this like classroom thing. There's a blackboard in there. And this is a really nice shot. I will give Bob Singer that credit. Like, he kind of does it all in one go. He kind of like circling Jake, because he kind of looks at the blank whiteboard. It kind of goes round, and then it goes back, and you see that it's been covered in writing that says, like, I will not kill. And then this like creepy little girl ghost appears behind him, and it's like fingers like elongate and go to attack him, but then Sam bursts in with his iron bar, or picks up an iron poker or something, and like dispels it. And it's not a ghost, it's a demon, because it smokes away, and I am really confused.
Me too. I was like, since when? Since when?
What? What?
Like, he does, when they come out of the room, like, he does say that it is a certain type of demon ghost thing. You know, he completely glosses over that. And I was just like, yeah, but it's still a demon.
Yeah. Like, the thing is, they could have just had a demon. But they could have, oh no, I guess they wanted it to be creepy and like appear places, but I don't know. I'm confused by the smoke. Like, I'm confused by the smoke.
Me too. Even Yellow Eyes possesses somebody. We've never seen them just, like, so far, just materialize as somebody.
Okay, I'm going to give them an out, but I do think this is just because they dropped this later on. Maybe demons are stronger if they're in a vessel, so most of them choose to take one because it's easier to get around. Like, this isn't making sense to me still, but like, but they can manifest briefly as creepy things to attack people.
Or, so we know that certain demons, like, so Yellow Eyes possess Death or Reaper.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they can possess a ghost.
Maybe.
But why?
Yeah, I guess so. I still don't really understand the whole test thing either, because do Reapers need vessels? Can they still be... Look, this is like great philosophical questions that... I say philosophical, kind of stupid, it's none of this is real. But, you know, like, it doesn't quite understand how the lore works, but I think they do get it kind of ironed out later on and decide some of this stuff, but like, this one, I just watched it smoke out and my brain like did not compute. I was like, demons don't work like that. Like, it was some kind of fact.
Me too. I was like I said, literally, since when? Since when has iron, like, why haven't they been taking iron to people like Meg? Why are they...
Just, you know...
Because she wasn't exposed?
I guess, I guess if you're in a vessel as a demon, you're less vulnerable because you can't be dispelled with iron. But salt still works? I don't know.
So, okay. You know what? I think because of what this demon is, and also, like, I'm just gonna say it and we'll see what. Because it's being controlled, it might be different.
That's true. Yeah, you're right, actually. Okay, fine. Let's go with that. Because this exact situation never happens again, I don't think. Oh, maybe with Sam. Oh, whatever. But, like, yeah, I think you're right. Okay, let's move on. I'm moving on from the demon thing. I'm moving on. Okay. Yes, Sam explains it's a type of demon that disguises itself as a little girl. Fine, whatever. And Andy is working his way through this knowledge. Like, I love him in this episode. Andy here, though, is providing the comic relief that Dean normally provides. That's why they wrote him like this. Sam, as they walk out this building, recognises a bell. It's a big old bell. It has a tree on it. And for some reason, he knows this bell so well that he can pinpoint exactly where in the country they are. He says they're in Cold Oak, South Dakota. And it's so haunted that everyone left or died, I guess.
All right. Okay. So I looked this up.
Okay.
Right? It's not a real place.
No.
Like, Cold Oak is not a real place. But when I was looking at a list of ghost towns, there's so many in South Dakota. There are a lot. I was surprised. Because then I looked in the state where I'm at, and there's about 10, 15.
Yeah.
Not even 15. I'm talking, I was scrolling for a while. And I'm just like, even with your encyclopedic knowledge, why does a bell stick out?
I guess it's one of those things. Probably John had it written in his journal about this being a really haunted place, so Sam's had to memorize it because John. And I
love that, because John.
Apparently, they were saying in the commentary this is based on a real ghost town. I think they said somewhere like Dudley or something. Dudley Town. It wasn't just Dudley, because that's just a place in the UK. But
I mean, it could very well be a place in the US too.
Exactly. Well, that's true. So yeah, they said they based it on a real ghost town. But it being a ghost town has no bearing on the story, though. You're right. Ghosts don't appear in the story. So they could have just picked an abandoned mall. Like, literally would have had the same outcome.
Yep.
Which makes sense, because they originally wanted to put it in a building in an orphanage, right? So they just wrote it the same but changed the setting.
Yeah. The line that is the most haunted place, like, you would think there would be more, like, activity, as it were.
Yeah,
especially with Sam around.
Exactly, yeah, because he brings out the ghosts in people. So Lily is asking them, why are we all here? And because she wants to go. And I mean, I was kind of with her on this. I'm like, yeah, it's creepy here. I know it's surrounded by the woods, but 3 miles is actually I think Sam says it's around about 3 miles of woodland. I'm like, that's not actually that far. 3 miles?
That's not really far.
Not really far. Like,
You could do that in an hour.
mm-hmm. Like, use the sun as your guide. Come on, Sam, you have survival skills. Like, you could get them through that woods.
And you have another soldier who's also done this kind of training, of like survivalist training. You could easily figure out a way to get out of here.
Yeah. Do you think Sam sensed that if they tried to leave, something bad would happen, so he's just using it as an excuse? I would at least try, though. As a group, leave.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe.
Mm.
It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's like he's almost being like damsel in distress.
Yeah, like someone will save us.
Yeah. Rather than trying to get themselves out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not clear as to why. I mean, it could it could also be the whole, like, when you get lost, you should stay where you are because somebody can come find you as a kid.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if you ever was told that, but that's what I was told. But again, it's very strange. Because again, like, since he knows where they are, he may not know, like, the surrounding area, but he must know, like,
what they're near, like big city that they're near. Like,
but he knows it's 3 miles.
Yes, he does know it. Anyway, plot point.
Plot, yeah.
Lily says she doesn't want to stay with them, and she explains to them that she's scared and that they've all been through things, but she's been through more than them because she accidentally touched her girlfriend and killed her. I mean, Sam counters this with,
I've lost people too. I have a brother out there right now. Could be dead for all I know.
he's worried that Dean might be dead because he knows that, like, demons are involved and that they probably took him. He thought they probably killed Dean as well, so he's kind of concerned that he's dead. But he's saying it's best they stick together. He is right in this horror movie tropes, you don't split up. And he sends them looking for iron, silver and salt, and kind of explains that, those are the weapons that they need. But as they're kind of looking around, we see Lily, and she is going off by herself because, of course.
So Dean and Bobby arrive at the roadhouse, but it's been destroyed by a fire. And they're looking amongst the wreckage and they see some bodies. They're asking, first of all, Dean asks about Ellen, and they don't find her body there. And then they ask about Ash. Bobby says he couldn't see him anywhere. But then Dean comes across an arm, and it's got his watch. So that's obviously why they made a big motion of him checking his watch. I was actually shocked. I did not remember Ash dying in so early. I thought he was in later episodes. It makes me sad.
I mean, Ash was kind of a fan favourite character. I'd be interested to know what the fans' reactions were to the Roadhouse and Ellen and Joe when they came on, because when you read, like a lot of fan fiction stuff, often these people are part of the kind of extended family of the universe, often appearing in works of fiction and all sorts of things. So people obviously got attached to these characters. So it'd be interesting to know. I didn't feel anything this time round. I felt so bad. I was just like, oh yeah, that happened in this episode. But yeah, it is sad to see Ash go. They could have, I'm surprised they never brought him back as some kind of ghost, or they tend to do it with other people, some kind of guilt trip in some way. I think Dean's reaction to finding Ash is quite interesting, where he's just like, oh,
Ash, damn it.
It's kind of resignation, I think. He's already having a really bad day. He thinks, Sam could possibly be dead, and now his allies are being kind of picked off. I would say on the commentary for this episode, Cryptpeak goes into a whole rant about how he always hated the Roadhouse and was happy when he saw the dailies from this episode. He says he was so over it. I think that's the language he used. He was over the Roadhouse. He said it didn't make sense in the show. The Roadhouse didn't make sense because he thought that Supernatural was based in realism, and the Roadhouse made it too fantasy. That, all these hunters would just be sat around, cleaning their guns, etc. And I thought that was really interesting, and I would love to know what Kripke's reaction would have been to the bunker. Like, I know he wasn't working on the show at that point, but like, he would have hated it, right?
Yeah. And if anything, the bunker is more fantasy than the Roadhouse ever was.
Yeah.
I honestly don't understand that mindset of like, why wouldn't hunters gather? Like, yeah, okay, they might not, you know, go there and do sort of like gun maintenance or whatever, but it doesn't make sense that people wouldn't share their knowledge on dangerous, like, because you can go to like hunting communities, right? Like regular hunting communities.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't there be supernatural hunting communities?
I've been rewatching the X-Files, and I do think that sometimes that Kripke wanted that same kind of style of the X-Files, because when you watch those early first seasons, it's very isolated to Mulder and Scully. Like, it really feels like it's them against the world. And like, sometimes they get some outside help, but it is really brief, and like, it's only when they need to be there for exposition, kind of, right, that they couldn't find that information out for themselves. And it does make it seem very like isolating at times when, you know, they're trying to explain things to people, like trying to figure things out, and it just seems like it's only them, and like they're the only ones who could possibly help in the situation. And it's very much the same with Supernatural with Sam and Dean. Like, it's just them. They've got no help from the outside. No one believes them. And I think that's a kind of same feel he was going for. But
the biggest difference is that the FBI as a whole has resources, and while yes, it is them by themselves, they still have like the training, they still have like everything else with that, which you don't have that same backing. All you had is John, and that's not strong enough.
And I think if they want, the thing is, I think also the thing about Supernatural, it's very like blue collar working class, right? And like, I think to write that as isolating is almost not getting the spirit of it. People help each other out. It's just what they do. Like, especially from those communities, people help each other out and share knowledge and share like resources and like how to get by and things. So it's like, to think that hunters wouldn't do the same, I think is a little bit naive, and maybe, I don't know. I think I agree with you though. I liked the Roadhouse. I like Helen and Joe. I liked Ash. And I like the bunker. So
like, if anything, the idea that they have nowhere to go is more fantasy than having a roadhouse, in my opinion. Like, they don't have, like, okay, they've occasionally gone to Bobby's house, but like, that's not really established at this point as somewhere that they can go. No. The idea that they are always on the road and always like in motels or hotels or what have you, it doesn't make sense. No. So having a place of like, especially when the bunker comes along. So with X-Files, they have a place where they can go look at files and you know, do the research, whereas with Supernatural they always have to go to local libraries and they're writing it down, but like, they don't have a library in their car. You just can't. Like, they can't have all the books. And we see Bobby's place and all those books stacked to the ceiling. Like, you know, to expect them to always not have somewhere to be, I think is asking a little much.
Yeah. And it makes sense that as they get more experience and as they meet more people, that their network would grow. The best addition to the show, in my opinion, was always Jodie. Like, it made so much sense. They had so much interaction with law enforcement. Why would they not eventually find an ally in law enforcement that believed them and would help them? And like, I thought Jodie was like made the most sense. Really, that she, you know, anyway, naturally a progression as they meet more characters, it would make sense. They can't just be them against the world. Not everyone can be Gordon, right? Who's like is an antagonist to them. You have to find people who help you.
Exactly, because they're the good guys. Good guys always attract more good guys. Bad guys have underlings, and the underlings are dead or die.
Considering how many episodes the Roadhouse was in, like maybe 3, maybe 4 episodes, honestly, it had a real impact on the fandom. It really did. To the fact that it was in the final episode. So, yeah, Kripke, you're wrong. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like, obviously Kripke had this really narrow view of what he wanted
Mm-hmm.
and didn't account for what the fans were going to attach to.
Yeah.
And where the story was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, but when you're saying it, I was like, how can he hate the Roadhouse for something that's, like I said, been in 4 episodes or what have you?
Yeah.
Like, it was hardly there, and how can you detest it that much? Maybe, with other episodes, while he was supervising, they wanted it to be there more often, and he had said no.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what, so it could have been in more episodes, but his ultimate decision was no. So that could be why he doesn't like it as much, because other writers might have been trying to rely on it too much.
Possibly. I mean, I think Kripke always had the view of the show as a horror movie. And, I agree with him in that. But I would say, even in horror movies, even in, the most famous horror movies, there's always, hope at the end. There's always the final person, right? Mm-hmm. That manages to, get away. So you have to have that hope as well. It can't just be all dark and gritty and just us against the world. You have to have other people. But, yeah. I'm actually going to miss the Roadhouse. I said I felt nothing, and now talking to you about it, I'm a little bit emotional about it.
Of all of the people to get rid of, why did it have to be Ash?
I don't...
I mean, we kind of know why it had to be Ash, but why did it have to be Ash?
He was too, Deus Ex Machina. He had too much information. He was able to help them too much, so he had to go. Bye, Ash.
Yeah, basically.
We loved your mullet.
But, even still, did he, though? Yeah, okay, he managed to do this algorithm, but, they never went to him.
They never used it.
No.
No. I know.
Anyway. Alright, let's get back to
it. So, we see Lily in the woods. There's some weird, giggling and stuff, and the trees are shaking, and she gets pretty freaked out. And she kind of starts to look like she's moving back towards town because she's getting worried. Mm-hmm. Sam and company are looking for weapons. Sam finds a knife. Ava suddenly is very, dizzy and looks kind of odd. And I've realised now why that is, and it only just hit me. I'm so dumb.
No, don't worry. I literally thought the exact same thing. As you were saying it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense now. She's saying that she's not having a vision, that she's fine. And then Andy calls because he's found 2 massive bags of salt, which is very convenient. And they all kind of look around and realise Lily's not with them. And they kind of hear the giggling and they go outside. As they go outside, there's a big windmill in the centre of this town, and they see Lily hanging from it. I have one thing to say on this, and I'm not even sure what it means. Look, there's this vague floating around in my head, a connection of windmills and supernatural, and if someone can help me out with this, I would be incredibly grateful, because this feels significant to me. And I know it isn't at this point, but I feel the theme of windmills continues on and on. And I don't know if it's just because it's the Midwest, USA. There's lots of windmills. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Where I live, there's a lot of windmills. Surprisingly, there's a lot. But I just feel in quite important moments in the show are windmill features. And I can't quite put my finger on the connection, but I feel maybe I'll get there. It's part of the journey.
I know you have your connection with Dean and his heart getting injured. Mm-hmm. But there is a lot of backstabbing.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of backstabbing, you're right.
All the time. Because, it's not clear as to how Lily died. Yeah. There's no sort of visual injuries. But it does look like she sort of maybe hooked through the back somehow.
Oh, yeah, kind of pinned up there, I guess.
Because there's no sort of visible, there's no rope, there's no, like I said, nothing visible.
No. I think there is rope. Should we also mention how they killed the gay character first? I feel that it's the elephant in the room, and I feel like it needs to be addressed.
It does feel kind of weird. They make this point that she didn't. She didn't have to be gay.
No. I know what you mean.
Like,
It's a very pointed, like, I killed my girlfriend. It was very like, oh, it was one of those moments where people say things in a TV show and it's like, we're being progressive.
and then 3 scenes later, she's dead.
Yeah. What did we know about her? Because we know everything about all, like, the other characters. We know Ava and we know Andy from other episodes. We know more about Jake because we know he's a soldier. What do we know about Lily? She's gay and she kills people when she touches them.
And she's from San Diego.
Oh, yeah. And she's from San Diego. Like, okay. It's just, I say this a lot about Supernatural. Disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah, like, it starts the trend, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was trying to think if there were any other, like, openly gay characters that we've seen so far, and we may have, and I don't recall.
The only other gay character that we've seen who wasn't even shown on screen, he was in a deleted scene, was from Faith, because it was the guy who
That's right.
died of a heart attack so that Dean could live.
Well, there you go. So it was actually there that it started the trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very disappointing to see that so early on.
I think so. And, like, okay, I get why she was the first one to die in this episode, actually. It did kind of make sense because we know the other two. Jake has a storyline coming up, so she's the one that would kind of be the trigger for the event. So, okay, fine. But yeah, again.
She didn't have to be gay.
Yeah, you didn't have to kill your gay character. Like, you could have, yeah. Anyway.
She could have killed anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing, maybe, is because Sam also, like, feels like he killed his girlfriend, even though he didn't.
Yeah.
But even then, you can relate that to somebody losing a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You know.
Like, there was no need. Disappointing.
So I did say about my connection with windmills, but in the commentary they do say that originally they wanted that bell to be on a bell tower and her to be hanging from the bell tower instead, but they couldn't quite get it to work and the windmill just looked visually better, so that's why they chose it. So they didn't say there's any particularly symbolic meaning behind it. I'm not saying that it stems from this episode. What I'm saying is the meaning is retrospective. And that might mean nothing, but we'll see.
So Sam tells them that, to gear up because they're getting ready for a fight,
mm-hmm.
and because we're soldiers, or just to gear up. And Ava says, well, I can't gear up because I'm not a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
That's when she starts to sort of freak out. Jake then decides to, Jake says, I'll go get her down.
Yeah.
And it sort of leaves Andy and Sam together. And he thinks he might be able to... So Sam says, I really wish Dean could be here to help out. And he's like, well, I might be able to help with that. I've never tried this long distance, but maybe if you had something of his. So his projection of images is what he's going to try and do. And some reason, Sam has a receipt that Dean has signed.
Yeah.
Someone has to explain that one to me.
I think you used to sign them when you did a card, because this is before the days of chip and pin, right?
Well, okay. You still, in restaurants, you still sign it now?
How outdated? What? How? Why?
But so what I mean by that is, so Dean was the one who had put the credit card down, signed it. Why did Sam pick it up, fold it up, put it in his pocket?
I mean... Okay, so no, I'm give Sam the benefit of the doubt on here. They live in each other's pockets. I have all kind of random stuff my, husband leaves accumulated, in my pockets, in my bag, receipts, loose change that he's given me, keys. I'm not saying that they're married, but they live, very closely together. So, yeah, it makes sense that he was just... I feel like Dean probably would have, maybe even... just left it and Sam probably picked it up so the server wouldn't have to clean it up. He's that kind of person.
I also feel like Sam is the finance of the two of them. So he's he has the receipts to sort of say, okay, we have to stop using this credit card because
Yeah.
it's reached its max. So maybe that's why he has it.
That's
He's
totally
like the
true.
accountant.
He has a little like ledger that he writes all their expenses in. I can see that for him, and it does make sense. So Dean signed that receipt, D. Hasselhoff. Like,
D. Hasselhoff?
Yeah, that's Dean's signature. It's hard to explain.
yeah, that's Dean's signature. Like, so seriously, like, this is just a fact. Like, I love that so much. And then realizes that it's weird and was like, oh, yeah, I can't explain that. Like, I love Sam.
That's the thing. Like, he probably, because when you sign a receipt, it's not to check that it's you. It's just to say that you're accepting the charges.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't care what you sign as long as you sign it.
So no one's looking at that. Dean's just deciding to call himself D. Hasselhoff. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I went to a local like farmers market, and it's just, you know, with all the pandemic and stuff, it's on like you can sign on an iPad, and they asked if they could sign for me, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. So it's literally that. It's a signing of a contract.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's not to say like this is me.
So Dean thinks he's like Knight Rider.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
He's got a black car.
He's got the car. It comes up later. So we cut back to Dean and Bobby, and Dean's kind of asking, like, what did Ash know? Where's Ellen? These are questions that are not answered in this episode. And then he gets a headache. He's so great at acting this. I love it so much. It looks so much like when Sam gets a headache and he kind of sees the flash of the bell. Bobby's suspicious, and Dean is really, really trying to explain away this headache of like, no, I must be stressed. I'm not having a vision. I think it's really interesting how much he's kind of denying the fact that he's having a vision here. You know? He's going like, no, it's fine. And it takes him a lot to admit that it is, I think.
Yeah.
I could have swore I saw something. What do you mean, like a vision? Like what Sam gets?
What? No.
I'm just saying.
Come on, I'm not some psychic.
What does that say about Dean? He doesn't want to be a freak, right?
Right, exactly.
Freak.
And like he's been saying to Sam this whole time, like, it's fine, you know, you're fine, I'm going to look out for you. But at the end of the day, Dean doesn't want it to be him who's got these powers. I think it comes down to the whole I'm not a monster thing. He said it in Folsom Prison Blues, like, he can't see himself as a monster because he is so prejudiced towards monsters still. It's going, but it's definitely still there.
I mean, it's what, 27 years of thinking that everything evil is a monster. There is no grey.
He's been conditioned to think that way. It's hard to break out of. But they realise, eventually he owns up to Bobby that he saw a bell. I really like the way Bobby checks on him. Like, Bobby does this thing in Supernatural, I don't know if you've ever noticed, when he's comforting people, like he puts his hand on the back of their neck. Like, it sounds like it wouldn't be a comforting gesture, but he kind of like holds them in. And he does that to Dean here, where he's like hunched over. He kind of puts his hand on the back of his neck, like kind of reassuring and comforting. And it was such a Bobby gesture. It like hit me right in the heart. And from Dean's description of the bell that he's seeing, Bobby immediately knows where that is because, again, he's also a walking encyclopedia. So Bobby definitely knows where Sam is.
I do wonder... I wonder if there's like... They have a list of places Sam had said is the most haunted place. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if there's like a list of places where they just sort of know that if there's some sort of weird activity in the area, like that's where they should check first.
Possibly. I mean, things like that, if I had read a book about a haunting and it had, like, say, a picture of the bell next to it, I'm way more likely to remember where that place is because it has, like, that distinctive picture with it, rather than just, like, reading about a whole list of ghost towns. And I'm wondering if Sam and Bobby work in a similar way, that they got lucky because it's a distinctive feature of the town. If they'd been put in any of these other ghost towns, maybe they wouldn't have been so lucky. But maybe almost the demon wanted them to be discovered. I don't know.
Yeah. So we're back at the town and they're at some sort of machinery. I'm not sure what it is, but Jake manages to like break off a piece of iron. Like, it's rusted iron, but still iron.
Yeah.
Turns out that Jake is incredibly strong.
Mm-hmm.
He managed to flip over like a car that was crushing somebody, and then he easily benched 800 pounds. You'd be essentially bench pressing 4 Sams.
That's true, yeah. Wow.
Jake calls out Sam's calmness,
Mm-hmm.
and like he can tell that he's actually sort of freaking out about like everything that's going on, which, because Sam's keeping calm for like the other two,
Mm-hmm.
Ava and Andy, and it makes sense because he knows something about the yellow-eyed demon. He doesn't know how powerful he is, but
Mm-hmm.
the fact his eyes are yellow does sort of indicate that he's not a normal demon, right? You would think.
Yeah.
So he knows he's incredibly strong, and the fact that he knows that there is a plan,
Mm-hmm.
and he's obviously in charge. And I think we spoke about this before, maybe last week or a week before, I don't remember. You know, we're talking about how, like, in anime, like, the big bad always has to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So it does make sense at the whole end of, like, the entire series even,
Mm-hmm.
that God would be the thing that they would have to kill.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do look at the beginning and look at the end and be like, how did they get from here to there? But this episode, I'm like, actually, it makes somewhat sense. Granted, the road to get there is incredibly windy and like has a whole bunch of other things in the way first. But like, if there's demons, then could very well be a god. So
Yeah.
it's not that huge of a leap.
Yeah, I see what you mean, actually. Like, where else was it? I don't know where else they could have taken it. I think...
Yeah, especially with everything else in between.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I mean, they could have done the whole Cthulhu thing. I would like to see some elder gods. I guess Leviathan was close, but fine. The conversation they have here is really interesting because I think it really points to Sam's leadership. Like, it makes sense that he's not panicking. Like, we know who Sam is. Like, he's been trained by John. Like, there's no way he would panic in this situation. And obviously he'd be get everyone else together.
You want to know the truth? I got this brother, right? And he was always telling me how he's gonna watch out for me, how everything's gonna be okay, you know, kind of like I've been telling them.
Yeah?
I don't know if I believe it this time.
And Jake says to him, well, it kind of doesn't matter what we believe. We've just got to stop them from panicking. So they're both seeing themselves in a leadership role here. Again, Sam's great as a leader. Like, he is really good at keeping calm. He's been giving everyone really clear directions, keeping everyone fairly chill. I mean, I know Lily died. Not great outcome. Not,
No.
That'll be your feedback, Sam. Try and keep more of your team alive next time. We get to see Sam again in leadership roles, I think, throughout the series, and I always think he really excels at them. And I think it's a shame they don't explore it more with him because it's often being given to Dean, and he's so reluctant. Like, he doesn't want to do it. Like, he's so reluctant to lead anybody really at all. Whereas Sam, I don't know, maybe it's because it's not expected of him. He kind of rises to the occasion. So we cut to Sam and Ava, and they're salting the house. They're kind of putting their salt lines down on the doors and windows. Ava asks Sam how he's doing, and he says that he's okay. And they kind of talk about, Ava says, like, I can't wait for this to be over. I want to be with my fiance watching bad TV. And Sam tells her here that unfortunately he died. Obviously, like, he hugs her and comforts her because, for her that happened like 2 days ago rather than 5 months ago. Again, interesting choice to tell her, I guess, but like, I think he kind of didn't tell her in the beginning because he knew she would have this reaction, but kind of like it was getting to the point where it was awkward not to tell her because she kept bringing him up.
Yeah, like, he did hesitate for a second, and she already picked up on the hesitation.
Yeah.
So, had she sort of let it go, then he probably would have let it go. Mm-hmm. So everybody sort of gathered together in like this main area that they salted off. And Sam's trying to stay awake. I don't know why though. Obviously there's no real clear plan, but it would seem to make more sense for them to sort of set. It almost comes down to that nobody really trusts anybody else apart from Andy because he's passed out.
Yeah, Andy.
So maybe it's like nobody really trusts anybody else, and they don't really want to go to sleep because Ava's awake, Jake's awake, and Sam's just sort of like dozing.
Mm-hmm.
Then Yellow Eyes pops up behind Jake. This scared the bejesus out of me. Like, because I don't know, for me, the episode was kind of quiet the whole time, so I put the volume up, and then this, like, loud surprise music. I was like, and he's like I said, he's jumped up behind Jake, and Sam's, like, trying to warn everybody, but it turns out that Sam's actually has fallen asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yellow Eyes sort of tells him that nobody else can see him, and, like, let's go have a talk.
Yeah.
Let's go have some exposition here. Let's wrap up some questions that you've had throughout season 1 and 2. And, like, this whole section, I was like, Sam just reverts to, like, being a child.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, I'm gonna tear you to shreds. I swear it. And, like, he does this really weird thing. Maybe it's because Jared is really tall. And the other actor is probably, like, not short, but, like, on the shorter end of being average.
Yeah.
Because he, like, hunches over and, like, bends his neck down. I'm like, he's never acted like that, right?
Yeah.
The way it was very much like, I'm doing the action like if you can see me. You know when somebody sneaks and they, like, hunch their shoulders and they're like, doo, doo, doo. To me, it was like that. And I was just like, this feels very strange. Even though it's a dream, like, wouldn't you try and, like, clock him one?
Dream punch him. Yeah, for sure. You have to remember this whole scene is being acted, and Yellow Eyes, Demon, the actor who plays him, can't see a thing. Those contact lenses are completely opaque.
So, when there's close-up shots of them talking, it flicks. Sometimes there's a pupil, so they cut it out so he can look at where he needs to be. Sometimes there isn't.
That's really good, actually. Considering it was so muddy on that set, like, I don't know how we didn't fall over, like, many, many times with those in, honestly.
So I do wonder, the way that they shot this, there may have been a guide there for him, because, like, part of his, like, right side is not shown.
Yeah.
So there could have been something, like, maybe, like, a rope or something that he can hold on to.
That would totally make sense, because I couldn't imagine it. I mean, considering that, like, I know you said, like, oh, I didn't clock the pupils being cut out. That's really good. I think he does such a great job in this, like, keeping eye contact, actually, or, like, looking like he's keeping eye contact, because I don't know how I would do that if I couldn't see, like, honestly. So great acting. I
mean, all of that sequence of when he's walking, it is the completely opaque version.
It's really interesting. Like, I think it's great, because I would never have clocked that he couldn't see, like, if I was watching this and didn't know. And there's a lot of walking around as well. So Yellow Eyes says to Sam, like, that basically he's his favorite and that he's here to help him win.
Welcome to the Miss America pageant. Why do you think you're here? This is a competition. Only one of you crazy kids is gonna make it out of here alive.
He says, I don't need soldiers, I need a soldier. And that he needs a leader. And so it kind of makes sense that he's coming to Sam, I guess, because he is kind of that way. But it doesn't really give much information about why. And so Sam says, like, to lead who? Yellow Eyes alludes to a future army. So, setting up some season 3 plot points.
Yep. I mean, it better do, because we've only got one episode left in season 2.
I love that Sam calls him a son of a bitch. Like, it's just such a Dean thing, like, just a Dean response that he just has on the fly, ready to go. I love it. Yellow Eyes talks about others not being strong enough, and that he's the best and brightest of his generation. And then he says, there are others, but we don't have to worry about them. And he's alluding to other generations, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
So the Yellow Eyes is kind of explaining to Sam how he's kind of the favourite of him. He says that he's tough, he's smart, and he was trained by his daddy, by John, to be this kind of perfect soldier, perfect leader for the demons. And Sam says to him, like, yeah, but you killed everyone that I loved. Like, basically, why would I ever join you? What is this speech? Because there's no way Sam's ever going to trust him. And to that, Yellow Eyes replies and basically confirms what we kind of already knew, that he killed Jessica because she was in the way. Sam was planning to get married to her, have kids, settle down, become a tax lawyer. I was correct. When he actually needed him to be on the road with Dean, fighting supernatural things to kind of get practice. Sam asks about Mary. Why did she have to die? And Yellow Eyes says it was bad luck. And then says, I'll show you. And he clicks. He does a click to take them. I'm sure he's done it before. I'm sure we talked about it before, but it was happy. Like demon clicks made me happy. Mm-hmm. When he clicks, he transports them to Sam's nursery, and it's exact like kind of replica from the pilot. So this was actually refilmed. It's not cut from the pilot. We see Mary come in, check on Sam. There's like a figure over his bed, which she thought was John, which I said it looked like John. And we see she kind of like goes, oh yeah, and walks back out again. We kind of see the demon giving baby Sam some demon blood.
That little sequence reminded me so much of like the Queen of the Damned. Mm-hmm. Like how the vampires have like really long nails. It made me very uncomfortable. It makes me feel very, very icky. And then Mary comes rushing back into the room and says, it's you.
Dun, dun, dun.
And I was like, excuse me, what? It was established here?
Yes.
That she knew who he was?
Yes.
And I did not remember that. I did not remember that at all. Because it's a long time before they explain how Mary knew this demon. And, you know, Sam's also surprised that Mary knew who he was. And then Sam is, like, snapped awake.
Yeah. I mean, Yellow Eyes came to come give us some answers and kind of maybe bring up a few more. I think it's interesting what they do address here and what they don't address here. So, like you said, Mary knowing Yellow Eyes is like, ooh. I mean, I knew it was coming, but, like, yeah, that's a big reveal.
Yeah, this is a conversation that got me frustrated because there's answers, but there isn't a lot because they have to leave it for the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a lot of the whys, like there's a lot of how questions have been answered and a couple of whys, but nothing like satisfactory.
Not really. I always have to remind myself that the demon blood was a reveal here because it's so ingrained in the story.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like, oh, that's the powers. That's how we got it. Like that was actually a reveal here that we didn't know that before. Right,
because in pilot and all of that, the blood that's dripping is actually Mary's blood.
Yeah.
That makes sense now. Okay, that makes me like that adds to how many plot twists there are. I didn't include that in my like original list. That's kind of sad. Like it kind of doesn't really make an impact. I was like, like I said, I was just more freaked out by like the fact that they did this to a baby.
What else is revealed? Oh, the fact that he's Yellow Eyes' favourite. There's an army of demons. Yeah. And I think that's already been alluded to by Meg. I feel like she brought that up at some point. And
it's more like confirmation, I guess.
Yeah, I think that the confirmation definitely helps, you know, because people lie all the time, especially demons lie in this show. So it's kind of like, I guess proving that it's true, but it's also being told by a demon. So, you know. The other thing is like the generations of other special children, I don't think ever gets resolved. I feel like we'll talk about this more in the wrap up for this season, but that line really surprised me. I was like, I don't remember this. I don't like what?
Yeah, because he doesn't reveal how many people in each generation. So we know there's at least 7?
Yeah. 8.
9?
Because the ones who aren't there was Max, Andy's brother, and the guy who could electrocute people.
And I thought there was someone else that Gordon killed in that episode.
Oh, me.
Like not on screen, but like
mentioned.
I
don't know. I think this alluded to there's quite a few, and like we don't know how many there are because not all of them had fires, etc. And also what's said later. But so yeah, I appreciate this kind of reveal, and I'm actually sure like if we'd watched it back in the day, this would have been like way bigger a deal, like of all this stuff being kind of sorted out. But because we know where it's going as well, it leaves me with a lot of like questions of like, I don't understand how some of this ties into the main plot or the big meta. That's what I'm trying to say.
I are we trying to fit a circle into, or are we trying to fit a square into a circle box?
Yeah, exactly. Because they hadn't written it yet, we maybe can't. I feel like some of this is retconned.
So as I said, Ava's missing now. So they go search for. So essentially, they do the thing that they shouldn't do. They actually all split up because they leave Andy behind to sleep. Jake is going to go search 2 places, and Sam's going to search somewhere else. Andy then wakes up, sees everyone's gone, steps over the salt line.
Yeah.
Why?
It isn't the thing that kills him. It's fine.
And then Ava is by the window, and she breaks the salt line by the window. Okay, this makes sense again. So she has another headache attack, holds her head like she's hearing something, and Andy goes to reassure her, and then the demon smokes in and attacks Andy. And
I was sad, to be honest. I was sadder at Andy dying than I was at Ash dying. I did meet Gabriel Tigerman at a con once. He seems like a really nice guy. Maybe that's why.
And I mean, if you think about screen time, he probably had more than Ash did.
That's true, actually.
Ash was in more episodes.
Yeah.
There was a whole episode with Andy in it. And it's kind of interesting that they have somewhat similar personalities, apart from one is probably Ash is more country about it.
Yeah, that's true. They killed 2 comic relief characters in this episode.
They did.
They did it. Yeah, I enjoyed Andy as a character. I feel his death scene was really sad.
It was. He was very trusting, and then he got exploded.
He did. There is a blood splatter, though. He did go out with a blood splatter. I mean, that's all you can ever ask for, I guess, as a supernatural death. They made the point in their commentary. They said, in normal shows, if you were asked to be a reoccurring actor, you'd be really happy, but in Supernatural, you're just wondering how long it is until you get killed off.
I wonder if they took that from Buffy, especially those last couple seasons. All that last season for sure. When all of the Slayers came on, I remember listening to an interview with Felicia Day.
Yeah.
And they were on those last few days of shooting, or last few weeks of shooting, you'd go onto set and wonder if you're the one who's going to get killed off that week.
Yeah, I mean, they did kill a lot of characters in that last season. I mean, they killed everybody in this episode, honestly. Yeah.
So Ava starts screaming and turns into a damsel in distress. And Sam is instantly suspicious. He doesn't quite buy Ava's act, because he notices the salt's broken. She can't really give a good answer as to what happened and why she's back in the building and why she left. And essentially, if they were playing Among Us, she was a really bad imposter.
Yeah. I mean, I love it when she finally switches. I love it. Yeah. I think she's really great, because I think the casting was really good, because she looks really sweet and innocent. There's just something about her. She just looks happy-go-lucky. And then to see the switch it's really good. I really like it.
And she definitely played off her innocent look, so that when she becomes herself, essentially.
Yeah.
Somehow, I don't know how they do it, but all of that innocence is just gone.
I know. Amazing. Really good.
And it's revealed that she's actually, the entire time, she's been there for 5 months.
Yeah. Which is a long old time.
Yes. And that people have been coming. Did she say how often?
No. But she
didn't say how often, but there's groups of 3 or 4 that come at a time. She's figured out that once you start to lean into the powers, they grow exponentially, and she can do a whole bunch of stuff, including controlling demons, which is what we had said a little bit, or said at the beginning of the episode. Which is why we were both oh, okay, this is why she's getting a headache, because she gets a headache when she has to control a demon.
Yeah, the second time it definitely clicked for me what she was doing, but the first time was not until we were talking about it now, was oh, that's why she was getting a headache while she was talking to Sam.
Does she start to call the demon over?
Yeah, she does.
don't know.
Yeah, she does. She basically says,
Do you know what I can do now?
Control demons.
Ah, you are quick on the draw.
yeah, she starts to summon it back through the broken salt line and kind of concentrating quite hard on it when Jake suddenly comes up behind her and just breaks her neck. Just out.
Yep.
That was still shocking to me, and I knew that it happened.
It wasn't. I think the aftershock of Andy dying was still like there. So for her to just like, this sounds awful, but it almost felt justified.
I mean, she was a bad news. She was bad news. She had to be taken out. So I mean, yeah. Jake kind of saves the day. Saves Sam from this demon. Though I feel like Sam would probably have been okay. Like, he had iron on him. He maybe would have been okay.
Yeah, but they had, well...
But we don't know what other powers Ava has either. She could throw them across the room. She could have telekinesis now. She could touch people when they die. Apparently that's a power you can have, so...
It's weird that she still gets headaches from controlling a demon, because, like, how else has she been killing off the other children?
Well, by being sneaky, I guess. Because, again, she's doing the cute and innocent act, so, like, they probably trusted her to begin with, and then as it came, it's been 5 months. She's won Battle Royale. She's done the Squid Game. That's relevant at the moment, right? Let's mention that.
We're relevant. Promise.
Promise.
Even though I just made an Among Us joke, and that's like not relevant anymore.
I wasn't really that sad to see Ava die because I remembered that she was evil. So
yeah, exactly.
But she also had been very much manipulated by the demon, so I don't entirely feel like it's her fault. I am a villain apologist, I guess, but like.
At what point do you think she started to lean into her powers?
I don't know, because like I guess maybe Yellow Eyes had the same conversation with her that he had with Sam. You're the one. You're my favorite.
You're my favorite. Yeah.
You need to win this, or you're gonna die. I mean, that's pretty good motivation.
Yeah, I mean it does make sense that he would have this conversation with each of them.
Yeah.
To try and like antagonize each of them to kill.
Exactly. Because this is all a battle royale situation. They're testing them to see who's the strongest. The only thing, it would have been better if they'd just done it all at once. I wanted to see 3 episodes of like a Hunger Games style like psychic kids showdown.
Just give them, literally do the movie Battle Royale.
Yeah, just do that movie. Just do it, thanks. Kripke did say they originally wanted this storyline to go on for much longer, but he didn't enjoy a lot of the episodes for season 2 of this plot line. He felt they weren't as good when compared to other episodes. So they kind of accelerated the timeline on this story for it to end here, essentially.
This episode does feel very much out of the blue because we haven't seen like much progression in terms of Sam's powers since Nightmare. No,
exactly. And like not really anything from the like psychic kid storyline at all for a little while. So yeah, it is a bit out of the blue, but it did need to be wrapped up, and I think that was it. I think they didn't know where to take it. So we see the Impala driving into the woods, and they have to pull over and stop because they can't drive any further. They grab some stuff out of the trunk, so shotguns and salt, and they off they go. So Bobby and Dean have found Sam, or as close as possible. I guess they have to do the 3-mile hike through the woods now. Again, only taking about an hour. Probably quicker for them because they'll be rushing. Also, if they can find their way in... Yeah, that's true. They do have a map. I was going to say, if they can find their way in, they should be able to find their way out, but whatever. And then Sam says to Jake, like, we should be able to leave now. Everyone else is dead. We need to go. I think Sam thinks that Ava was, because she was controlling the demons, she was the one stopping them from leaving, essentially. Mm-hmm. So that's why they can now go. Oh, Jake. Why?
Why?
The other thing is, he had the same visitation from Yellow Eyes, right? That Sam's had, that Ava's had. Maybe he just didn't bother with Andy because...
I think Andy was just there to be there. Same with Lily.
Cannon fodder. It's sad.
That's really bad, yeah. I'm sure if they didn't bring back Andy, that would be the thing. Like, oh, well, he was one of them. Like, why didn't you go after him?
Yeah, they had to bring him back for this because he was the one they knew was still alive.
Sam, he's not letting us go. Only one. Now, we don't play along. He'll kill us both. Now, I like you, man. I do. But do the math here. What good's it do for both of us to die?
Like, there can be only one. And that Jake doesn't trust Sam not to kill him.
Right. Which, I mean, Sam, ever the optimist, reveals that he has a knife and puts the knife down and says, look, you know, I won't kill you if you won't kill me. And it looks like Jake is going to also agree by putting his, like, iron rod down.
Mm-hmm.
But then he just knocks him away.
6 ways to Sunday. Yeah.
He is just, like, his face should be broken. Let's be real.
I mean, Sam gets a nice bruise across his jaw. Like, it's a big bruise that I appreciate. Their fight is really good. I mean, Sam should have learned the boot knife trick from Dean. You think that's one thing he would have picked up in this life, like, boot knife.
Yeah.
But
always.
The fight's pretty good. I quite liked it. At one point, Jake, I think, dislocates Sam's shoulder. Like, you see him, like, holding it. And, like, holding his arm so he can't, like, punch him back or anything. But as we've said previously, Sam is, like, badass.
He is. He knows how to fight. Because I do wonder if he got caught off guard with that first punch.
I think so.
But he does actually use his powers without him knowing. Because he doesn't get thrown that hard. And I can't imagine that Jake is, like, holding back of not throwing him off again.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I wonder if Sam discovers something there. I don't know, though. I think he's just used to fighting things that are stronger than him. So there's a bit where he dodges out the way and, like, Jake punches through a fence, so he gets stuck there for a bit. Like, that's, like, classic, like, fighting someone who's stronger than you. Like, get out of the way and let them, like, hurt themselves, essentially. Or, like, tire themselves out. So it's really great. I really liked it. Of course, Sam eventually gets the better of Jake and, like, knocks him to the ground. He gets back up again, and then Sam hits him with the iron bar around the head. There's a moment, because he knocks Jake kind of unconscious, where Sam kind of debates hitting him again to kill him. I like it. There's good conflict on his face.
Yeah, that was really well done. Because he knows that by killing, he's doing exactly what the demon wants. But he also knows that, I mean, look at what happened with Gordon.
Yeah.
By not, I mean, yeah, okay, he didn't kill him in that episode, and he did a different method. But in this, like, he knows that he could be, like, not tracked again, but, like, hunted down again.
I was trying to think of a time, because Dean at this point would probably do the same. Dean later on would not hesitate to take that action, I don't feel. But I'm trying to think of, like, future Sam and think, does he ever take that final kind of, like, blow? So someone who's, like, unable to fight back, or, like, I definitely think he always kind of hesitates a little bit. Sam is,
yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be proven wrong in, like, 2 episodes or something, but
probably. Or just, like, looking back on what we've seen so far. The only time he's ever done anything like this was in Heart.
Yeah,
that was a completely different situation. He, like you said, he's ever the optimist.
Yeah.
So I don't think his default is to kill somebody. He wants to give them the chance to prove him wrong, I guess.
Like, I don't think he would have killed Ava if Jake hadn't. I think he probably would have incapacitated her. I don't think he would have killed Ava because he feels like she's the same as him, the product of the situation. Yeah. There was never, I think I even remember when I watched this the first time, there was never a moment where I thought, oh, Sam's going to kill him. Like, I feel like I did know, we've been saying, like, we don't really understand Sam's character, but I think I know him enough that I would be like, no, it would have shocked me if he had killed him.
Yeah. And that never really changes.
I don't think so. I don't know. Yeah. But so So Sam leaves him, and he hears Sam from like in the distance, which I love that so much. Like, it's just so great to me. And Dean and Bobby come like running into the town, and like Sam looks so relieved. He like stands up, starts to walk towards them, like clearly going to like run in to like hug Dean.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jake picks up the knife and stabs Sam through the back. Oh.
And not even just like a light stab. This is like a full-on stab and twist.
Oh, Jake, why?
I'm gonna mess you up.
He runs off. Jake runs off, and Bobby follows him. And obviously, Dean runs towards Sam.
So I do have a question before we get into this last.
Okay. Let's hold off.
Like, I'm trying to prevent this next bit. So we know with Ansem, his name was Ansem, and the guy who could electrocute things, they were visited by Yellow Eyes before and were told things before. Yeah. They both were clearly having some sort of issue. And that's why that's probably why Yellow Eyes, that was what we theorized at the time anyway. And why Yellow Eyes never went to Sam was because he knew who he was, and the reason why he never went to Andy is because Andy's way too chill to give a crap.
Yeah, I think that's probably true,
essentially. Do you think Yellow Eyes visited Jake? Because Jake is in a very stressful place. Afghanistan is not a walk in the park to be in. Yeah. And because obviously we do know that he's had this conversation that there can only be one, blah, 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 blah. When did that occur? And do you think Jake has always had that, like, instinct to, like, kind of like Ava? Yeah.
Here's my thought on it. I don't necessarily think Jake was visited by Yellow Eyes before this, because unless he's a really good actor, like, I know Ava kind of looks shocked and everything, like, she does hide it very well when Sam's telling her all of this. She's almost too disbelieving. You know, she's the one that's like, oh, you sound absolutely crazy, Sam, and all of this, where everyone else is kind of a little bit accepting because of their situation. And I think they're all kind of reacting similarly. Ava's kind of the standout one there. I think this conversation with Yellow Eyes happened at the same time that Sam was having his conversation with Yellow Eyes. Because before that, Jake had been talking to him about leadership and getting everyone together and, like, kind of keeping everyone going. And that only seemed to change after Andy died, where that was kind of after all the dream sequence happened. But that's only my take on it.
And, I do want to agree with you, actually, because it doesn't make sense that Ava could just disappear if Jake was awake. No. So I think they had all fallen asleep. So, for whatever reason, Ava didn't attack when they were asleep, but plot. So we kind of get that. And I wonder if, like, it's sort of Jake's survival instinct, because obviously Yellow Eyes knows everything about them. So whatever was told to Jake might have been different to what they had told to Sam. In that, like, because obviously Jake being a soldier, he already has the knowledge and, like, it is different for Sam because he was going to leave his hunting life, right? Yeah. Whereas Jake was already in it because he's a soldier.
Yeah, I kind of get what you mean. I think there was such a big shift in personality from Jake. I think something must have happened. Maybe even, I don't necessarily know in this place if they even need to be asleep to be visited by Yellow Eyes. Like, he's still in the body of that janitor, so he could just appear to them. So maybe when they were looking for Ava, he could have been talked to then. I just think it was such a big shift from, like, yeah, let's all work together and get out of here, to, like, no, there can be only one, that something happened in the meantime.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, I need to point this out. So as Sam, like, falls to his knees after he's been stabbed, apparently what to do, like, they shot in Platoon. And that's just like, okay, fine. Like, putting in references to other movies during this scene is just like, okay, fine.
can you not? This is not the time.
That's like
this is not the time.
On his knees,
or
looking
place.
at the sky, kind of look, you know.
Yeah, I hate it. And of course, that goddamn theme is playing.
Oh, hey, look at me. It's not even that bad. It's not even that bad, all right? Sammy? Sam! Hey, listen to me. We're gonna patch you up, okay? You be good as new. Huh? I'm gonna take care of you. I'm gonna take care of you. I got you. It's my job, right? Watch after my pain in the ass little brother. Sam? 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 Sammy!
Can you not? And Dean is trying to, keep Sam awake and trying to convince him, like, we're going to get you some help. We're going to be fine. It's all going to be fine. And Sam's very much unresponsive, bit of a rag doll.
Yeah.
And then, like, his head falls onto Dean's shoulder and, like... This is one thing I didn't really see.
Mm-hmm.
Did Jake pull the knife out, or did Dean pull the knife? I think Jake did, right?
Jake did. Because as Dean runs up, he kind of grabs Sam's collar. And then they kind of both slide down to their knees, and he kind of puts his hand around his back and, like, sees the blood. And he says to him, like, this is nothing, like, it's going to be okay. Everything's absolutely fine. Like, it's all absolutely fine. Everything's totally fine. Poor Dean. I mean, for Sam at this point, like, it's kind of over. All of this emotion is focused on Dean reacting to the situation. And they do some really, like, honestly, it's so emotional. It's Jensen Ackles just, please, audio award.
I hate how they ended this episode, but we'll get there. I mean, this is like a 20-second scene, but it's like we could talk about it for hours.
I could talk about it for hours. So just the way he shouts, like, Sammy, Sam, is just too much.
Mm-hmm. The single man tear.
And yeah, Dean kind of saying, like, it's my job to look after you, so it's all going to be fine, and then kind of hugs Sam, and the camera zoom out.
And then his last exclamation of Sam, like the echo.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a nightmare.
They end this shot on Dean's face, like, crying and shouting for Sam. And they said in the commentary that in the original take of this, they wanted it to end on that zoom out, but it was actually Phil Segresha, who we know and love, who decided to have that final, like, shot of Dean's face. And apparently they did get a note from the studio that said, like, why didn't that just end on the zoom out? And they're like, no, it's got to be like this.
It's got to be like this. This is like this is so establishing. I know we've said this multiple times about multiple things.
Yeah.
But, like, this, you could switch this out for any other season and switch over the two of those characters.
Yeah.
And how crazy is that? Anyway. And, like, it fits.
It would be the same. The elements that I want to put into here that we see later on, the collar grab. To make it light, let's break down a Winchester death scene.
Death/dying.
Yeah. So number 1 is the collar grab. Everyone always gets their collar grabbed. Number 2 is the hug.
Yeah.
I think 3 would probably be assessment of wounds, maybe.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And number 4 would be reassurance.
Yes. Annabelle.
That everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. Oh, and 5, of course, single man tear.
Single man tear.
Yeah.
Or just, if you're Sam, just full on, like, blubbering.
Oh, he's good at crying. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, Sarah Gamble said in this part of the commentary that she believes that a third character in the show is the relationship between Sam and Dean. And she said when they have something happen to one of the characters, the bit that you want to see is the other character's reaction to it. And she referenced Heart, at the end of Heart, where we see Dean reacting to Sam have to shoot Maddie. And she was like, Jensen just gets it. He gets that's what you want, that's what the reaction, and just everything. And this scene is just, to be fair to Jared, I'm sure it's a very emotional scene, but he kind of only had to just sort of like kneel there and be hugged.
Yeah.
But it was raining, it was muddy, it was perfect.
I mean, Jared gets his chance, for
he
sure.
does, yes, he does.
Multiple times.
Oi. Oi.
Too many times.
Too many times. Okay, here's the kicker. Would Sam have been stabbed if Dean hadn't shown up at that precise moment? Because Sam fully let his guard down. Like, he turned away from Jake, he let his guard down, he looked relieved, he saw Dean and was like, oh, I'm saved. And then Jake stabbed him.
Nah, I think he still would have been.
You think so?
Because he was ready to leave, so he would have turned his back on him anyway. Because I mean, it didn't help, but I do think it would have. He still would have got stabbed.
Yeah,
It's a trope. It's definitely a trope. Like you get distracted by the person you love.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Familial or romantic.
Oh, that definitely happens again in Supernatural. Oh, I hate this stupid show.
It happens all the time. It happens all the time in this gosh darn show. Like, how many of the characters would have been alive if one of the two hadn't shown up because they loved that character?
I hate you right now. Yeah.
Like, what a Debbie Downer to end on, but it's true.
I mean, the thing is, at least they gave us that it was part one. Can you imagine watching this thinking, is there another episode next week? Like,
yeah, no, that would, and have to wait months on end to get the next conclusion. Yeah, this would be too much of a cliffhanger, I think. Even next episode, how that ends is a huge cliffhanger.
It is, yeah.
But there are still so many questions in this that it'll be too much for them to be like, okay, end of the season, see you next one.
Exactly, there's too much. I mean, overall, I think this episode is I do like All Hell Breaks Loose. Like, I was thinking about this. I was like, do I like the end of season 2? Like, before I watched it, I was like, am I excited for this? And I remembered what happened. So I was like, no. But also, it is one of the best season finales, I think, of the show. I do think that, actually. I think season 1's finale is okay. It's really shocking and, like, it's quite a good cliffhanger. Yeah. But they could have actually ended the show right there and then, I think, almost, and it would have almost made sense.
It's almost like they had... if it didn't come back for season 2, I wouldn't have been mad.
Yeah. It was unsatisfying in a way you would expect it to be unsatisfying, you know? Like, sometimes they leave those kind of, like, what-if things. I kind of enjoy that sometimes. I wish sometimes they would leave endings up to the imagination a little bit. Supernatural.
I mean, I guess like this is coming from a place of like watching like Studio Ghibli too, which is like their endings are always ambiguous.
Yeah, and I love Studio Ghibli films just like you do, and I think you're right. It has at the end, it's not neatly wrapped up in a bow. It's like, okay, this is the end of the character's journey. This bit of it, but like there's other things that could go on from this, and I think that's why I like this season 2 ending because I think they knew they were going to get season 3 already. So surely they must have known this at this point. So I would hope. Because can you imagine if there had never been a season 3? Like, okay, fine.
The seasons get renewed like halfway through.
For the most part. I'm looking forward to watching part 2 next. I haven't watched it yet. So I'm sure there'll be emotions.
Oh, yeah.
But...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, more Bobby. I feel like there's more Bobby in this next episode.
And yeah, the one thing I don't like about this next episode is the correlation between between Dean and John. Like the trying to bring back those parallels comes back hard in this next episode.
Well, looking forward to dissecting those with you. Maybe I'll just let you be mad about it for the whole episode.
You had your episode last week and I'll have mine next.
I think that's totally fair. I mean, I don't want to say...
It may not get as much my skin as I think, but I do have a feeling that...
it's going to bother you.
It's not going to be good. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you. I don't have much more to say on this one because we are watching part 2 next week, and I'm sure we'll dissect this in our season wrap-up too. So overall, I like it. I'm glad we established the 5 tenants of the Winchester death scene. I feel like that was important for us to do. I'll write them down somewhere so we can compare them to the next one. Oh, why is that even an option?
Yeah, no, it really shouldn't be.
No.
But here we are. Oh God. You know what just came to mind?
No.
So you know how you said Bobby's like reassuring thing is to grab the back of the neck?
Yeah.
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 Is this not kind of similar? Like this is the way that they reassure each other by holding the back of their neck. They learned from Bobby.
They learned it from Bobby. Because he's their dad.
Yeah. I'm gonna cry.
I can see actual tears. Yeah, actual tears in your eyes. I can see them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, next week, obviously we're watching part 2, season finale. I can't believe we've nearly done 2 seasons.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you for being on this journey with us.
Yeah, I really, really appreciate everyone here.
Yeah, me too. It's been a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're coming up to doing this for about almost a year, like in a couple months.
We are. And of those people, we would most like to thank the Pixel Agora for our beautiful art. It's really redefined our podcast, I feel, like the look of it. I think it's helped us attract new listeners, and we're forever grateful. Their art's on Redbubble if you'd like to purchase any of that. And also you can commission them on Ko-fi too. Have a look at their Tumblr because they're currently doing a comic book series for Souptober, which I still can't say.
Nice. You can also find us everywhere else. Everywhere on social media. Tumblr, YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, all of that. Definitely give us a follow.
Oh, I wanted to add, there's a new feature on Anchor. When I put episodes up to Spotify, I can now pose a question. So if you see those, have a look and engage with them if you would like. Just a little bit of extra fun.
Because we want to hear your opinions, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So, this week, we were teleported to an old TV Western set. It kind of reminded me of that episode of Star Trek. It does kind of look the same. But before we could get out, we were betrayed. Bye.
Bye.